Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the WM32 Football Podcast. Today, it is myself and Nelson back in the chairs, and we are going to be discussing the breaking news that dropped yesterday regarding England's provisional squad for the delayed European Championships. So Euro 2020, obviously delayed because of COVID-19. So Nelson, first of all, great to have you back with us as always. Your initial thoughts then on the squad that Southgate has chosen for the upcoming tournament in the summer.
Yeah, great to be back. Looking at obviously, I'm obviously going to be supporting the Three Lions heading into Euros. So obviously, as any Three Lions fan, you want the strongest squad possible. When looking at the initial provisional squad, I kind of forgot in the moment that yes, he's going to have to cut it down to 26 by June the 1st. But the provisional squad right now, like I'm happy with it. Would I personally have made some changes? Obviously, yes. I think everyone has opinions on certain people that maybe should have been included, should have been cut. But my initial thoughts to begin with was a very good, strong squad heading into the Euros. Yeah.
No, that's good. And I think, Nelson, is it fair to say that the word provisional is key here? Because, a lot of people have been going, oh, well, that's kind of it in terms of the squad. And I think, as you mentioned there are going to be some players that are going to be cut. So do you think, again, like I say, that word provisional is key here when we are going to go through and dissect the squad as a whole?
100% key. Because at the end of the day, I think even personally for me, I think even cutting it down to 26 is a bit too much. Because I think when you look at these international tournaments and the amount of players that teams bring, most of these players unfortunately may not even get a cap in this tournament. So even I think 26 is too big. But yes, the key word here you mentioned, provisional, is important because I think it tells the players that okay, I'm only halfway done, and there's a lot more there's a lot more in the next week or so that I need to do to convince Gareth that I need to be included in the final squad. So yeah, I think that's key for players to remember, and as well as fans to know that okay, there are going to be some cuts coming soon. So yeah.
No, brilliant. And just for the people watching and listening, the provisional squad that Gareth Southgate has mentioned is as follows. So we have 4 goalkeepers, which consist of Dean Henderson, Sam Johnston, Jordan Pickford, and Aaron Ramsdale. Moving on to the defence, we've got Trent Alexander-Arnold, Ben Chilwell, Cody, Ben Godfrey, Reece James, Harry Maguire, Tyrone Mings, Luke Shaw, John Stones, Kieran Trippier, Kyle Walker, and Ben White. Moving on into the midfield, we have Jude Bellingham, Jordan Henderson, Jesse Lingard, or Messi Lingardinho to his mates, Mason Mount, Calvin Phillips, Declan Rice, and James Ward-Prowse. And then moving into the forwards, we've got Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Phil Foden, Jack Grealish, Mason Greenwood. Our friend Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is going to be very happy about that. Harry Kane, Captain Kane, of course. Marcus Rashford, again, another one that our friend Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is going to be happy about. Bukayo Saka, Jadon Sancho, Raheem Sterling, and last but not least, Ollie Watkins. So, Nels, are there any names then out of that core or that group that stood out for you in terms of a surprise inclusion and surprise call-up?
A surprise. I think I'm going to head over to the defenders. And in terms of a surprise selection for me was Cody. Now, the reason I say surprise, I wouldn't say surprise in a good way. I think just surprise in the sense that I think we've all seen, I actually think in one of our recent episodes in the WM32 awards season, you mentioned particularly that one of your most disappointing teams were Wolves. And I think I wouldn't say Cody epitomizes that kind of season. But obviously, I don't think he's had a great season. Obviously, it reflects with the team performance where they are in the table. So I was kind of surprised, but I understand why Gareth has put him in there because of systems, formation, potentially heading into maybe playing with a back three. And we all know that that's what Wolves did with Nuno. So it'll be interesting to see moving forward if he does get cut. But like that's my first surprise inclusion that I saw when looking at the provisional squad. Yeah.
Okay. I think just to pick up on your point with Cody, I think the reason perhaps that he is in there, as you mentioned, was systematic and formations and things like that. If Southgate was to go with a three, obviously, as you mentioned, Cody's got that experience of playing in there, but also as well, he has been involved in the last few squads. So he does understand the way England want to play and Gareth's way of thinking. So I would probably assume that is why Cody has been selected. Obviously, like I say, he's been in the last few squads as well. And I think he's even donned the armband in one of those recent fixtures as well. Are there any other names then for you, Nelson, that have stood out in terms of getting a provisional call up at this stage?
I think I don't know. Looking at the squads, I don't see any other. Everyone else that I look at, like I think they've warranted a spot. I think a lot of people might be surprised with Jesse Lingard getting in there, but I think no one can doubt that he's had a remarkable second half of the season. He done so much to bring West Ham to actually potentially contend for a Champions League spot that you can't dismiss that. I think I'm surprised a bit with Hendo, but then again, he is a Hendo in the sense that, again, compared to Cody, the season at Liverpool have had, but we know he's an international player. Hendo is an international player of quality. So I understand, Gareth picking him leadership as well, brings that leadership. So when looking at his name, I think for me personally, I wasn't expecting a lot of Liverpool players to make the squad. So even when Trent's name came out, I was like, okay, cool. Trent got the call up. We all know his quality. But I think looking at certain teams this season, I was skeptical of them having a lot of representatives. Like, for instance, I think you mentioned as we were talking that Tottenham now only have, Harry Kane to represent as, Tottenham's representative, whereas in previous tournaments, you guys have had more. I think personally heading into it, I wasn't expecting no Liverpool players to make it. But no, I wouldn't say I'm not disappointed that Hendo is in there. I'm actually happy he's in there. But I think it was just a surprise because I wasn't expecting Liverpool players. But no one shouts at me apart from kind of Cody as a surprise inclusion in there. So what about yourself? Like, did you see any?
There's a couple in there. First one that screamed at me was Aaron Ramsdale. Given the nature of the season that he's had, obviously part of a team that has gone down, most league defeats as well, I believe, in a Premier League season. But I think, having said that, he's in there for me because Nick Pope is having surgery. So I think Ramsdale's got himself in, and the fact I think as well he's England's under-21's first choice goalkeeper. So I think, but obviously had Nick Pope been fit, I think you'd probably see him in there, and then Sam Johnston would probably be that fourth goalkeeper in this provisional squad. I have to say as well, despite the fact that for me he's had a fantastic season, I am surprised to see Ben White in there. I am a massive fan of Ben White. I'm a massive fan of Ben White. I think he's a brilliant defender. And I think he's got all the attributes to be a top defender as well. But I just think, again, Brighton have struggled a lot this season. All right, people will probably say their struggles have been at the other end of the pitch in terms of scoring goals. But the fact that he's kind of come in from the cold, if that makes sense. Like, we've not seen him in any England squads before. Don't believe he's played much, if anything, at youth level with England, maybe up until under 20 level. if that. So, yeah, I think Ben White was a massive, massive surprise for me in there as well. I think in terms of exclusions now, Nelson,
Yeah.
are you surprised that there are some players that haven't made the cut? And I'm going to use Eric Dyer as an example here. Now, Eric Dyer has lived up to his name in every which way this season, right? However, he has been a player that Southgate has depended on consistently in the, since that World Cup performance. Dyer's been in the squads, and Southgate even came out and said that it was a difficult decision to leave him out because he brings a lot to the group as well. So, like I say, was Dyer then perhaps, with those comments in mind from Southgate, was Dyer perhaps a surprise omission from this squad?
In regards to Dyer, yes, just because, like you said, he's been a mainstay as part of since Southgate has actually been in, come to the helm. But I mean, personally, I've never when looking at Southgate's perspective. Yes, it is a surprise exclusion, but I don't rate the brother, so I'm not really surprised. I'm not oh, Dyer didn't make it. I was not one of those people. I have to be honest.
Yeah.
But you mentioned if there was any surprise inclusions that I noticed. For me, I'm gonna represent my boy Oluwafikayo Tomori. I'm gonna put him in there because I actually think the same. If you look at it from Jesse, if Jesse Lingard had a great second half of the season, then I think you should have considered Tomori in that respect, because he struggled at Chelsea to get minutes. Obviously, we knew that Frank Lampard was restricted in terms of the transfer ban, so he had to bring in young players, and Tomori was one that impressed many. When he came into the Premier League, obviously this season hasn't been able to get any minutes for Chelsea. Tuchel's come in and not been able to get any minutes, but then he's made the switch to Italy on loan from Milan. And I think he's had a really good impact. I wouldn't say a phenomenal, tremendous impact, but he's had a very good impact, and his form really picked up in the last 2 months of the season. Me, I like to watch my European football, so I was watching Fikayo, and I think he did really well in that Milan side. And if you're getting props from one of the best defenders of all time in Paolo Maldini, then I sense that Milan actually want to keep him on a permanent now. So it's all up to Chelsea, obviously, if they want to keep Tomori or not. But no, I think Tomori is smart. He's intelligent in terms of his footballing IQ. And yeah, I think he's a he's a good ball playing centre back. But I was just surprised that he wasn't included. Because obviously now I would have swapped him for Cody. Obviously, you mentioned Ben White being a surprise inclusion. Maybe that could have been swapped. But yeah, for the defenders department, Tomori was one that I was surprised that he was excluded. Did you see anybody that could be anywhere? Doesn't have to be defenders. Did you see anybody that you were surprised that were excluded from the squad?
Not entirely. Like I said, it was probably Ben White was the main in terms of the outfielders. Ben White was the one that I'm looking at and I'm going, okay, that's the real sort of surprise inclusion. But in terms of exclusions, it's pretty. I wouldn't say the squad has picked itself, because I don't think that's been the case. But I think there's been a lot of players that you can't sort of discredit them being in the squad, if that makes sense. So it's going to make our task now of trying to cut some players very, very difficult, because we've had. I think this has probably been one of the first tournaments that I can remember, certainly, where we've got a lot of players that have played well for their clubs this season and have really shown their qualities. Okay, there's probably talk of maybe a Danny Ings potentially being slightly unfortunate. But then I think Ings' injury record has just hindered him slightly for me. But I do rate Danny Ings. I think he's a fantastic striker. I know a lot of talk about Paddy Bamford. and James Maddison as well. I think with Bamford, he strikes me as a good centre forward, but I don't know if he's that international quality centre forward. And that's the difference for me, I think. Don't get me wrong, he's had a brilliant season and has improved no end under Marcelo Bielsa. Like, the transformation of Paddy Bamford's been ridiculous. His conversion rate has gone through the roof. Like, it was horrendous when he first joined Leeds under Bielsa. I think it was something crazy. Like, he needed at least, I think it was something between 4 and 6 chances to score, and that's been cut now dramatically. But yeah, like I said, I just think he's just, perhaps for me, just not quite at that next level. And then with Maddison, I think, again, injury towards the back end of the season hasn't really helped him. And then I think Leicester's season obviously started fantastically, and you thought, okay, this is their time now to get Champions League football. And then similarly to what happened last season, they just tailed away right at the end, much to my delight, because Tottenham ended up playing them on the last day of the season. And, you know, we won and secured European football for next season, something that you won't know about, Nelson, because your team aren't in there next year. So
I'm happy. I'm honestly happy, but it's cool.
So, yeah, I just think, look, there's a few perhaps that I would have liked to have seen. Maybe Ezri Konsa at Villa. I think he's been absolutely fantastic this season. So yeah, but I don't. It's one of those where I can see pretty much Southgate's line of thinking with the majority of the players in this squad.
What about Wan-Bissaka? Surprise exclusion, or?
I think that as a player, sometimes you can be a little bit unfortunate in terms of the players that are ahead of you. And I look back at the likes of Michael Carrick and Gareth Barry. I know Barry sort of came into the England fold a little bit later, but I think certainly in the early part, especially Carrick, he was really, really unfortunate with the level of player that was ahead of him, because he had the likes of Gerrard, Lampard, etc., that were ahead of him. So I think Wan-Bissaka's got that problem at the moment. You know, we're looking at this squad here, and it's got 4 right backs in it already who have all been brilliant this season. And yeah, I just think that unfortunately for Wan-Bissaka, he's maybe 5th. He's 5th on the list. You know, I think there's going to be a couple of other right backs that are going to have this problem. I think Max Aarons is going to be another one who's going to have this issue, because you've got Reece James and Trent Alexander-Arnold who are of good ages. So, you know, they're going to be probably England's 2 long-term right backs going forward. So again, does that mean then that Wan-Bissaka and or Max Aarons then pushes themselves to that 3rd spot? Who knows? But yeah, I just think at the minute, don't get me wrong, Wan-Bissaka has had a good season for United, even though he got turned inside out by Ben Davies earlier on in the season, which has never happened to anybody before. I can assure anybody of that, having seen Ben Davies for the last 6-7 years. But I think on the whole, he's had a really good season. I just think he's unfortunate that there's players ahead of him in his position. So yeah, that's where I stand on Wan-Bissaka. It might be time for him to, you know, look at his passports and switch nationalities in order to at least get him some international recognition, because he's definitely an international player. I just don't think it's going to be with England, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to be happy anyway. You're going to be happy anyway. If possible, if Wan-Bissaka does.
No, I think, I'm going to be happy. I'll be delighted.
So, Nelson, we've kind of picked the bones out of this squad. Now we're going to have to cut some players, because there's 33 in here. Southgate can only choose up to 26. So who, in your opinion, and we have to stress this is only your opinion, do you think is, or who would you like to see, or who are you going to cut from this particular squad?
So the people that I think he may cut heading into June. I think June the 1st is the date, right? I think June the 1st is the date that he has to cut it down. So far, well, the people that I believe, well, my opinion that he should cut is Aaron Ramsdale, Connor Cody, Ben White. We've also got, again, we've got 4 right backs. I think that's too many. Now, I think you should bring 2, but I could see Southgate bringing 3. So I'd cut Kieran Trippier. And I like Kieran Trippier. I mean, since he's left Tottenham, I've liked him. Let me just point that out. Since he's left Spurs, I like watching him play. Like he's a La Liga champion. Let's not forget that. So he is actually very important in that Atletico squad. So I personally would keep him in. But in my opinion, I was trying to look at it from Southgate's perspective, and I think Trent's on-ball quality is something that you can't dismiss what he could bring to that squad. So so Connor Cody, Ben White, and Kieran Trippier in defence. So that's already 4 for me. Midfield is really tough to pick out, but if I had to pick somebody from midfield, I'd probably go for Jesse Lingard. Jesse Lingard, just because he is in a peculiar situation, like you mentioned with Wan-Bissaka, just because of the amount of players ahead of him. Now, if you look at the forward position, even though these guys are listed as forwards, they can play across the midfield kind of, line as well. So it's kind of unfortunate for Lingard in that sense. Yes, if this was maybe 3 years ago, I'd put him in there. But I think now with the development of quality that we have in these attacking midfield areas, I think he's unfortunate that he has these amount of good players ahead of him. So I'd put him as well. So that makes it 5 for me. So I've got 2 more spots left because obviously it's 7 to cut. In the forward department, I'd go with Ollie Watkins, just because, again, similar to Jesse Lingard, what is in front of him. Dominic Calvert-Lewin has had a great season, and you're not getting rid of, the captain. So, there's no chance you're going to get rid of Harry. Also, the fact that other players such as Mason Greenwood, Marcus Rashford, these boys can play across the front line. That is, again, that versatility Watkins doesn't have. Yes, he is your typical centre forward, but Marcus could do a job there. Mason could do a job there as well, Mason Greenwood. So Ollie Watkins is my 6th pick. Now, in terms of the last one, this one was tough. But I'm going to go with Jude Bellingham. Now, this one is, I'm so sad to say it because I think we both love him as a player. What he's done for Dortmund this season has been ridiculous. And Dortmund have kept their promise of making him an international player within 2 years. It's already been 9 months. He's already got an international call up. He's already got a cap. But I think when you just look at age, still 17, still very young. I think he's the youngest. Yeah, I think he's the youngest selection in the call up. Mm-hmm. So I think this competition may have been too soon, but yeah, he's got time on his side. So we've got the World Cup in Qatar next year. So that, experience that he could get, again, for Dortmund next year could be his time. But he would be the person that cut. So to kind of break down my list, I've got Ramsdale, Connor Cody, Kieran Trippier, Ben White, Jesse Lingard, Jude Bellingham, and finally Ollie Watkins.
Nice. I can't really discredit any of those.
Okay.
I would have to say I am in agreement with the majority. Cool. I think there's perhaps some question marks regarding some players at the moment due to injury. So I think if Henderson isn't fit, I would suggest that Bellingham goes. Again, if Maguire's not quite right, who know? I mean, who knows? Like Ben Godfrey is, you would probably say, on the periphery at the moment. He might get a look in as well. But yeah, I think other than that, I think my list was pretty similar, to be fair. So I had Ramsdale.
Oh,
Ramsdale was a dead cert, like dead cert, dead cert. I think Ben White was also one that I was looking at and going, he would more than likely be cut from the squad. But I think him just training with the group over these next few days before it does get cut, I think will be an invaluable experience for him.
Yeah.
Again, in terms of midfield, as I mentioned, I think it depends on Henderson and his fitness as to whether maybe Bellingham goes. As you mentioned, I'm a massive fan of Jude. Absolutely love him. I think he's going to be like he's top draw already at 17. It's ridiculous. He's running the show in the Champions League at 17. Like, it's crazy. So yeah, I just think it depends on Henderson's fitness as to whether he goes or not. I think this tournament may have just come that little bit too soon for Bellingham. And as you mentioned, like, time is very much on his side. 17 years of age. I think if he doesn't make this one, it'll be interesting to see if he makes next year's World Cup squad. I would say Lingard is probably going to get cut. Again, I think he's had an unbelievable second half of the season, and has really rekindled his spark and his form from times gone by, if you like, at Man United. But I think you summed it up perfectly, and that was, you've got a lot of players, I would say, ahead of Lingard in the roles that he can occupy and deploy. So I just think that I would suggest that there's more ahead of him as well in terms of Southgate's thinking as well. A player we haven't really mentioned too much, who I think again is on the periphery, is James Ward-Prowse. Now, I would take James Ward-Prowse, not only because he's a decent player, but his set piece delivery, I think, could be really, really key for England, and it could be a secret weapon almost to getting some goals from in the tournament. I think we saw in that last World Cup how strong England were from set pieces for the first time in how long. So I think if you've got the quality of James Ward-Prowse over a dead ball, I think that will be invaluable. Looking at the forward, Ollie Watkins I can see getting cut, and then I think we've got some players who, again, are probably on the periphery, but I just think it's to the point where they are of a level that perhaps you just can't ignore. So that I would put Sancho, Saka, and Greenwood into that category. Obviously, Greenwood's been in and out of a couple of squads over the last few squads. Obviously, he had a bit of a misdemeanor with Foden out in Iceland. So I think Matt Greenwood's had a bit of a difficult time and a difficult season, but has still produced moments of quality off both feet. I don't think anybody still knows what his strongest foot is. And I think he's got some development to go in terms of positional development. Like, where's he going to play? Is he going to play off the right? Is he going to play through the middle? I think that's still the big question mark over Mason Greenwood at the moment. But I think he would be a fantastic option to have in this particular squad. And I think just having those 3 extra places can afford Southgate that opportunity to maybe just take a couple of extra players that could be brilliant options. Obviously, and a match day squad is still only 23 anyway. So yeah, I think Greenwood will certainly be involved, I would say, in the 26. Just be interesting to see how much of the match day squads he's actually going to be involved in. And I could argue the same potentially for Saka. The only the only thing I think that puts something in Saka's favour is that we've got one left back or two left backs, should I say, Luke Shaw and Ben Chilwell, but Saka's got experience of playing as a wing back as well. So I think that stands him in good stead. In terms of this right back situation, now we've got four. Who'd you drop out of those four? So this could be one of Kyle Walker's last tournaments, given his age. But I think he offers Southgate a lot in terms of, he's been consistent, I think, since joining Manchester City. All right, there's been perhaps a few lulls in there, but I think on the whole, he's been a consistent performer for City. And has got good and can play in a back three, play in a back four as well. Got great pace, can go forward as well. So I think Walker is probably a shoe-in. I would suggest Reece James is as well. He seems to be one that the people at England and the FA really, really like. Again, can play right back, wing back, centre half. We've seen him play there for Chelsea. Did that in the FA Cup final. And also, by the way, is a very, very good holding midfield player. If anybody watched Reece James at Wigan, he was unbelievably good in holding midfield. So yeah, if you don't know about Reece James in holding midfield, then get to know. So that leaves Trent and Trippier.
Wow. This one, like, I think, again, like I said, I've really enjoyed seeing Trippier this season, but you actually mentioned this point for Reece just now that I was going to mention for Trent. Like, these two have ridiculous experience playing as, Trent now is a right back, but, in his academy days, he was a centre mid. His idol was Steven Gerrard. So you could see those on-ball qualities from midfield as a right back. He's transformed the way right backs now provide in terms of like attacking threats. And you can see that him and Reece are similar. So I was thinking, like, let's say worst case scenario, our deep line pivots are somehow injured. You have that option in Trent or Reece to play in a holding position. Like, I don't wish that, but I'm just saying that there's that. They're so versatile that they could play there with ease is ridiculous. But
now you've got me you've now put a picture in my head of Reece James and Trent Alexander-Arnold as two pivot players for England. And it's like, well, they're both right backs, if you like, by trade. And now I'm thinking, well, no, actually, that could seriously work as a midfield pair, because Reece James is a solid guy, and you could have him as a ball-winning midfielder, and then you just have Trent as your playmaker. This is ridiculous. I think I would love to see Ben Godfrey there. Because I think he's been unbelievably good for Everton. He was brilliant at Norwich in the Premier League, and he's taken to Everton like a duck to water. He's played across the back line as well, and hasn't looked out of place. However, and has even played for England under 21s as recently as the last international break, where they got knocked out of the Euros. But I think it might be him that would get cut. Don't get me wrong. Again, I would love to see Ben Godfrey there. I'm a massive, massive fan of Ben Godfrey, and have been since his Norwich days. But yeah, I just think it might be him that would get chopped. Unfortunately.
Maguire.
So Maguire, yeah, I mean, again, question marks on his fitness. So yeah, if Maguire isn't 100% fit, Godfrey goes for me. I think if it is going to, I think Southgate's got a headache with these four right backs, although he did try and cover himself in his press conference by saying that, Walker can play right back and centre half, Trippier can play right and left, Reece James, right back, wing back, centre half, midfield, Trent, again, wing back, right back, or centre mid. And as you put that picture of in my head now of Reece James and Trent, I'm probably not going to sleep very well because of that. So, yeah, right then, Nels. First game for England is Croatia, June the 13th.
Oh wow! Oh wow!
This is one for the WhatsApp groups and all the group chats. Who's your 1 to 11? I may have put you on the spot there, but who's your 1 to 11?
Gosh. Oh, don't do me. Oh my gosh. Oh, you actually put me on the spot. Okay. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm gonna go for a 4-3-3 to begin with. So I'm gonna go with as much as Jordan Pickford will be selected to be number one, in my opinion, I'll go for Dean Henderson. I don't like Jordan Pickford as a keeper. I'm just putting that out there. Okay. But I think I'd put Dean Henderson. Okay. Left back, I put Chilwell. This one's difficult because Shaw's had a remarkable season with Ollie. Like Ollie's given him so much trust, and you've seen in the way he plays. So I'm really happy for Luke Shaw because we all know how much he was a rising baller in Southampton. But I think Chilwell's been steady, so I'll put Chilly Chilwell in there. So in terms of the centre back pairing, man like John Stones done his bit. I'm sure he'll miss Ruben. When they see, especially if they see each other in the competition, like they're just gonna that bromance is something. But no, John Stones, I'd put right centre half, left centre half. Yes, there's a reason why Tyrone Mings is there, but I'm sorry, I would just not put him in. I just wouldn't put him in. Like I'd probably put Maguire in. Wow, Maguire! Oh my gosh, this is mad. Yeah, so Stones and Maguire, which obviously means two right-footed, centre halves playing in that back two. And yes, it kind of doesn't bring balance, but I could see it still working. Right back now. Oh my goodness. Right back. I'd probably put. Oh my gosh. You know what? First game. I'm gonna put Reece. I'm gonna put Reece in there. I'm gonna put Reece. That's my start. Oh, where's you've actually put me on the spot, man? Oh my gosh, I can't do this. Oh, I put Reece on the spot. So my back line consists of Ben Chilwell, left back, Reece James at right back, and Maguire and who did I mention? Maguire and Stones in the middle. Cool. The midfield three now. Midfield three, Declan Rice. Like I'd start Declan. My brother's doing. I saw him do that old dance, Jesse Lingard on the weekend with that Adiola when I rolled. But yeah, put Declan Rice. I'd put him as the deep line midfielder, and then beside him, I'd actually put. I can see Mason Mount playing. I can actually see Mason Mount play. So I put Mason Mount in there. But however, I wouldn't pick anybody else from that midfield department just because I mentioned that there's a couple of players in the forwards that can play in that midfield three. So for me, I'm gonna put Prince Philip in there. Like he's he's actually a prince. Like he's actually royalty at City. So my guy Prince Philip Foden is gonna be. He has to be in there. The brother has to be in there. Like we've gone on how much we love him, and he's just done superbly this season. So so my midfield three is Rice, Mason Mount, and Phil Foden. Now up top we've got Harry, of course, number 9. We need him. On the left, I'm sorry, I have to put Jaden. My brother's gonna kill it. Just rip man up. I'd love to see that tournament. And oh wow. Oh wow. Oh Jesus. Okay. It's between Marcus Rashford and Raheem Sterling, actually, because as much as you forget that Raheem Sterling has not played a lot of games in the last 2 months because of how good City's squad is. Let's just deep that. I forgot that there was a game at Crystal Palace after they beat PSG the second leg. They played Crystal Palace, and Raheem Sterling started that squad. That's how deep Man City's squad is. So, but no, I think you can't. I would put Raz in there. I'd put Raheem in there just because. Not that Marcus wouldn't bring a goal threat, but Raheem has really improved. We've seen over the last few seasons, especially for England. He got a lot of slack when playing for England. We saw it every time in the media. Everyone would pin it on Raheem Sterling, but he stepped up, rise to the criticism. So yeah, to complete my starting 11, which I hate that you've done this to me. Dean Henderson, Ben Chilwell, John Stones, and Harry Maguire. Then you've got Reece James at right back. Midfield three of Declan Rice, Mason Mount, and Philip Foden. And up top, we've got Harry Kane, Jadon Sancho on the left, and Raheem Sterling on the right. Oh, that hurt. Oh, my gosh.
Ooh.
That hurt my head so bad. Oh, my goodness. I don't know if you maybe would take out a couple players if you wanted to. If you did your starting 11, who would you go for?
Well, seeing as I stuck it on you, I may as well have to go. If I'm gonna stick it on like that, I better do one myself. So I'm goalkeepers. I think I again would love to see Hendo in there because I think he's a brilliant goalkeeper. I think Pickford will be in net though, I have to say. Southgate seems to trust him a lot for one reason or another. So yeah, Pickford in goal for me. Back four, Luke Shaw, because I think he's edged Chilwell this season in terms of performances. Maguire and Stones centre half. They're probably the outstanding two centre halves that England have got, I would say, at the moment. Should Maguire not be fit, I would be bold, and I would play Ben Godfrey.
I knew you were gonna say that. Yeah.
Cool. To be fair, I'm not a massive fan of Tyrone Mings anyway. Anybody that knows me knows I'm not a massive fan of Tyrone Mings. And I don't think Connor Cody suits playing in a back four. So yeah, I would go with Godfrey. Right back. Here we go.
Yep.
England's poison chalice almost of a position. It's one of them anyway. I'm going with Walker. At right back. A little bit of experience, a bit more experience than Reece James, and I think experience is going to count for a lot in this tournament. We've seen France have recalled Benzema to their squad. Yes. Germany have recalled Muller and Hummels to their squad. So I know they're in a group of death because they've got Portugal in there as well. But yeah, I think in these moments as well in tournaments, you need that experience to get you through. Now midfield, if I go with this midfield, I know people are going to say I'm probably a bit, I'm on the cautious side, but I would go Hendo and Rice in there. If Hendo isn't fit, you know what? I can see Calvin Phillips starting. Yeah. If we're going 4-3-3 here, I can see Calvin Phillips starting. And then I think it Mount would be the other one. So it would be either Hendo, Rice and Mount, or Rice, Phillips and Mount as well. So yeah, for some reason I can just see, I think when it was Albania away, obviously it was a fairly difficult first 45 minutes, and then I think between the coaching staff and there was a tactical switch, it seemed, at half time, and it just seemed then that things started to click a little bit more in terms of the way England played in their build-up phase of building attacks. Captain Kane up top, standard procedure, but one of the best in the world, if not the out wide.
Yep.
Right, who I've got to pick out of Foden, Grealish, Greenwood, Rashford, Saka, Sancho, and Sterling.
Good luck. Good luck.
Nah, this
Good
is a
luck.
joke. This is a joke. I've killed myself here. Phil has to be, he has to. So I'm going to put him wide right. Do you know what? I'm going to be a little bit brave here. I'm going to go Grealish.
I knew it. I swear, I knew it. I could see it in you. I could see that.
I mean, I'm a massive fan of inverted wingers anyway. But yeah, I think Foden, Grealish, and Kane. Oh my life, what a front three that is.
Yeah.
And then as the game goes on, oh my life, you've got Rashford, Sterling, Sancho, Saka. That level of pace to come off the bench, and that level of quality as well. I mean, Southgate's got a hard task. We all know that. But I think Grealish offers something different in the sense that he's a ball carrier as well.
Yes.
And he can take the game to the opposition. And the thing that's impressed me with Grealish, I think, since he's come into the Premier League with Villa this time around, is that he loves the responsibility of being Villa's main man. But then it's like, right, give me the ball. I'm going to take the game to the opposition. And I'm going to take the game by the scruff of the neck. I've been really, really impressed with Grealish in that respect. And that's where I think his added quality has come through. And Foden is a generational talent. There, I've said it. Generational talent. Yeah, I mean, I could be here all day talking about how good Phil is.
Same.
But I think as well, Phil can give the option of being a false nine as well.
Yeah, 100%.
The only thing is here, I would say perhaps with my team in comparison to your team, is if Kane does drop in behind, I don't think we've got that level of direct pace to get in behind. So I wouldn't be shocked also, and this is probably, people are going to say you're sitting on the fence here, but I wouldn't be shocked if Sterling and Rashford ended up on the wings for England.
Exactly, yeah.
Just to give that direct pace going in behind. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just, how do you
pick? It's a joke, isn't it?
How do you pick a first 11, man? It's crazy.
Like, I think you mentioned a good point regarding Kane, because if he does play, if it's the Kane that we've seen this season, that, let's not forget, guys, he didn't finish top scorer. He just also finished top bags of assistman, so he finished in the top of the assist charts. So we could use that to our advantage, like you mentioned with Sterling and Rashford. For him, it'd just be another day playing with, Sonny. So it's just like, okay, it's like I'm playing with Sonny. Let me just find that ball. But I think everyone remembers that UEFA Nations League game against Spain, where he did that to devastating effect with Sterling and Rashford. He found them and put the ball on the plate, and England was so devastating on the counter. So, we'll have to see what happens. It's actually a joke when you look at the forwards and the amount of what we've got.
Yeah, it definitely is, and I apologise for putting us on the spot like that, but it was one of those where it has to be done, right? It has to be done, I think. Like I say, it's the conversation of all the group chats, I think, at the moment. In terms of that first game, who are you going for? Nelson, just a final one. The big question that we all want the answer to is it finally coming home this summer?
It is only coming home if we play France in the final. And you play Wan-Bissaka to man mark Kylian Mbappe. That's it. That's the only way we're going to win. If we face France in the final, and I'd want one-on-one Wan-Bissaka versus Kylian Mbappe, because I know I've got someone who can actually guard, that person. No, I'm joking. I can see us reaching the semis. I don't know how far we can go in terms of winning. I think, obviously, we all would get good impressions after the group stage, once we play our teams in the group stage. I actually believe in us this year. I think heading on from 2018, which shocked me, I didn't think we'd reach semis. But since the 2018 World Cup, I actually think we can do it. Like this, I want to see England win a European Championship before in my lifetime. So I say yes, it's coming home. What about you?
Well, I guess you've been lucky that you've actually seen your club side win things. Some of us out here haven't had that pleasure. So to see it, England winning something would be fantastic. Don't get me wrong. I think the group stage will take care of itself. I think we've got a nice group. Listen, the Scotland game is going to be I think each game is going to be different as well. I think obviously Croatia have got some top players. The Scotland game is going to be a battle, 100% going to be a battle. And then Czech Republic. I mean, you got Souček, snap. Yes, right. Souček could easily run riot here. But no, I fully expect England to get out of the group stage. And then I think it's about who you draw after that. I think my Souček comments got you there, innit?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But no, I think, listen, England had a bit of luck in the last World Cup. I think we're going to need some again. I think what's going to play into England's hands is almost home advantage. But I think the squad and the fans have really got to come together and use it as a huge advantage. Like the England fans, those lucky enough to be in the stadium at Wembley, have really got to make a really good atmosphere for the games. So yeah, I think if we play on the home advantage, I think we can at least, as you said, get to the semis, like minimum. And then we've got some top nations in there as well. Going to need a little bit of luck along the way, but yeah, why not? Why can't we bring it home?
Why can't, exactly.
So, yeah, I'm going to be optimistic for a change and say it is coming home instead of my pessimistic self, usually my realistic self. But I think Captain Kane is going to be lifting the Euros, and then all the memes are going to come out afterwards regarding how he's won more with England than he has
with Tottenham.
Yeah. Yeah. Right then, guys, that is it for us for today. We hope you enjoyed this particular podcast. I know me and Nelson did as well until we got put on the spot for our 1 to 11s, because that, as you found, was very, very difficult for both of us. Just make sure that you like this video on YouTube, comment your thoughts in the comment section regarding what we have discussed today. And any players you think should have been in the England squad, and give us a little reason as to why as well. Don't just put a particular player. Give us a little reason and a little bit of an insight into your thought process as to why you think that particular player should have been included in this squad, at least the provisional one anyway. And make sure, again, you subscribe to the YouTube channel. We have hit over 100 subscribers. We are very, very thankful for that. And there will be more YouTube content coming soon as well for the summer months, so keep your eyes peeled for that. This is also going to be on Spotify, so make sure you give us a follow on there at WM32 Football, and give us a follow on all social media platforms. So that is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at WM32 Football for those. Don't forget, we have our kit offer as well running in the shop at the moment. So if you spend over 50 quid on your WM32 Football merchandise, you will receive a free backpack. Myself, I'm wearing a polo today, and Nelson has his hoodie on as always. And there is less than 1 week to go before our holiday camp starts in Milton Keynes in conjunction with the Jack Collison Soccer Schools. So make sure you get yourself booked on there. If you head over to our website, www.wm32football.com, and all the details are on there for you. Right, Nelson, thank you ever so much for today. And I will see you and everybody else very, very soon, and stay safe.
Bye.